now, I'm going to introduce a beautiful friend of mine, fellow business owner, and someone who can actually speak to what it's like to have an immune condition and not be granted an exemption.
Evening all, my name is Mandy Turner. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but I'm a vulnerable person. It's hard to follow that. I'm a business owner, and above all, I'm a mother. Before I share with you all the effects of the business on my business, of the government state mandate, there's something that I want to discuss with you all. It's something that Anastasia Palaszczuk yesterday said herself, and that is, we are taking this strong action to prevent and to protect vulnerable Queensland. I wanted to discuss and clarify, for those of you that might not be aware, who is classed as vulnerable Queensland. For me, I was diagnosed in 2003 with a severe case of Crohn's disease, an autoimmune disease which has no cure, no pinpointed treatment, and not really a lot of background. Throughout my journey, I've suffered miscarriages, medical abortions, severe pneumonia. I've been hospitalised for weeks and months at a time, and I've even had part of my bowel removed from my body. In 2018, I was put onto a new biological immunosuppressant, which basically has had me in remission for almost 2 years. Last year, the stress, like most of you probably feel, being a business owner during COVID, I started to again suffer from symptoms of my Crohn's disease. I was put onto a medical trial, double dosing my injections from every 8 weeks to every 4 weeks, basically bypassing my immune system, leaving me with that less of a patient undergoing chemotherapy. When the vaccine was first announced, and each new brand that was brought into Australia, I consulted with my GP, my gastroenterology team, an immunologist, my drug manufacturer, and no one could agree for me that this was safe. They could not provide me the evidence that in my personal circumstances, my family and personal history of vaccine reactions, most severe requiring hospitalisation, the double dose of biological immunosuppressants that I was on, or with my autoimmune disease, no one could agree that I should have this. When sharing my story, most people assume that I am the vulnerable person. I am one of those who cannot, and that you are getting the vaccine to protect me. So why and how do we get a medical exemption? The current medical exemption cycle is this. No standard GP can actually even sign one for you. Even if you are severely immunocompromised, you have an anaphylaxis reaction like we've heard our professionals talk about, you have a major medical episode, all of the reasons which are listed for a permanent or temporary exemption, no one can actually sign it for you. The waiting list currently on the Gold Coast and Brisbane to see an immunologist is 6 to 18 months, long after the mandate comes into place. The handful, and I repeat, the handful of GPs on the Gold Coast who are actually being given the training to sign the exemption for you will not do so because of the gag orders they've been given or because you're not one of their patients. So tell me, how are those who are vulnerable? How are those we must protect? How are we meant to get an exemption? Why are we being told that this is for the greater good? Protect those who cannot, when currently the only way to get an exemption, and even a temporary one, is, like our professionals have said, to have an anaphylaxis reaction in the hospital and only still to be told you must try another brand. As a business, are we, by following this mandate, closing our doors to not only those who deserve the right to make their own medical decision, but those like me that are stuck in this vicious exemption cycle? This leaves me to ask, how as an unvaccinated person, how am I meant to run a business in the events industry? One that is required to, as a part of my job, enter businesses, enter hospitality establishments, enter venues. My medical team agrees that I cannot have this. How am I meant to run a business that pays tax? How am I meant to contribute to society and feed my family if I'm not allowed to do my job? My business is the leading events business on the Gold Coast. I supply the events that are run for the Gold Coast City Council and for Mayor Tom Tate, who today could not even be bothered to come and listen to our voices and to my voice. The mandate coming into place prevents myself and my staff from being able to even enter a venue before the attendees arrive on site. It removes over $1 million of revenue, which in turn pays the taxes that assists in filling our hospitals, building our roads. It prevents me from being able to spend my money in your businesses, continually supporting our economy. My profit margins, your profit margins are already so small that they're now put into overdrive. This isn't just about me. How, as an employer, do I protect my staff? How do I tell my staff member who's trying for a baby when she has clients coming in telling us that they've miscarried 1, 2, 3 days after the vaccine? As a small business, and probably like yours, my profits are low. I spend most of my days sifting through the regulations, wondering how they mean and affect me, only for them to change a few days later. Now, in addition to this, I spend my days trying to be a humane employer, trying to create jobs for those in my fold who cannot be vaccinated, who can go out on site, who cannot, who do I put in the office? How is it my right as an employer to enforce or impart any medical decision on my staff? Above all, and I'm telling you right now, I'm going to cry, how do I protect my children? We've already seen the slippery slope and the continual push across the board, laying down one law before bringing in the next. Are we following the Victoria in mandating the vaccine for ages 12 plus? No. I've spent the last 10 years of my life heavy metal detoxing and food mapping my 12-year-old daughter, whose vaccine-flared, life-debilitating eczema as a toddler left her with her skin almost peeling off her body. She's been wrapped every night of her life almost in soaked oats and wet cloths, shedding tears from being bullied due to her skinless knees and legs, not being able to walk, waking up most mornings with sheets covered in blood. In July of 2017, a doctor and a paediatrician deemed that filling her with any further vaccines was life-endangering. It was too risky. They gave me a permanent medical vaccine exemption from her ever having to be vaccinated ever again. About 3 months ago, I logged onto her Medicare account to see it had been removed. I rang Medicare and I asked, what's happening here? They said to me, it is now invalid. They told me to take my child to the hospital, have her vaccinated in the presence of a defibrillator, and see how she goes. For me, for my child, her one outlet and her passion in life is dance. Most of the time, it's the only time she can stop scratching her skin. I was advised this week that due to the mandate, I might not even be able to watch her perform, and next year, if we continue to have our freedoms removed, my unvaccinated child won't even be able to attend dance. What are we doing to our children, to their mental health, to the future over a virus that we have been told has little to no effect on our youth? We are segregating our children from ages as young as 12, and now they're talking about 6 to 11? This is just my story. I have friends that are here tonight whose stories are so much worse than mine. Today is the day that we need to stand up and fight, and we need to stop waiting for someone